The Seahawks are now 3-1. They did not start off 4-0, George, but I think the biggest
All right, that's the end of
takeaway.
a podcast,
All right,
man. I
damn it.
don't talk about non-under. I'm kidding. Yeah, no,
Yeah, we said we were gonna go 17-0, and it's possible, and it's over. And all right, well, we'll be back next week after the Seahawks.
Thank you for
are
tuning in,
5-1.
guys.
This is your favorite podcast, and all right, did we publish this one?
Yeah. Let the people know how we feel, man. We want to make sure all our honest thoughts. No, but really, man, that was one of the first times I can remember in a long time watching.
Can I guess what you're gonna say?
Yeah.
You're listening to the Sports on Tap Seattle podcast. I'm Sammy, and with me, as always, is my older brother, George.
Your favorite place to be a fan of Seattle sports. Now let's get this party started.
A positive loss. It's okay.
I look, I know loss is positive, right? Like you can't just say, "Oh, I'm so happy."
I have more good than bad to say, personally.
Yeah, but I left that game with no sour taste in my mouth about the Seattle Seahawks football team injuries. I know the Lions also, by the way, had a ton of injuries too. So, but that's not the point. We're playing on the road, Monday Night Football. Key injuries at key spots. Broke the record for most first downs in a game in a loss. Couple missed officiating calls might have made the game a little bit different. So like so many different things that like led to the loss ended up being like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I think there's we've talked about this in the past a lot. Were those all excuses? Absolutely. But sometimes excuses are reasons too, right? Like you have an excuse not to do something. Sometimes it's also your reason, like even though it's an excuse. So like, yes, we have a lot of excuses for the Seahawks loss, but there's also some that are legitimate reasons. And I think when you count these guys, Uchenna Nwasu, Boye Mafe, Jerome Baker, Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, and then midway through the game, Julian Love. Let's say Byron Murphy right now is getting half the snaps because he's a rookie, but that's like 5.5 out of our 11 starters, which is exactly 50% of our starting defense was out. That's pretty crazy to think that if it wasn't for maybe a DK Metcalf fumble, or if it wasn't for the Tyler Lockett offensive PI call, or the 2-point conversion was converted that he was actually in. There was a lot of weird shit that happened in the game.
Yep.
Maybe we would had the ball in the last drive down 7 or 8, not down 13.
Yeah. So well said. So that's why you leave that game feeling pretty good. The team looks complete. I know it sucks giving up 42 points, but I don't feel like that's a story of our defense.
Yeah. I actually don't even, when I look at the numbers, I don't understand how we gave up 42 points. Like there's so much about the game that like, it doesn't equate to giving up 42 points. Like this shocked me when I looked at this. And for the audio listeners, I pulled up the team stats. The Seahawks outgained them in total yards, passing yards, rushing yards, time of possession by almost 10 minutes, first down by 17. But like they're 5 for 10 on third down. They had 50% on fourth down. They had 28 more plays. That's pretty nuts. And you gave up 42 points.
Yeah, one of them is a turnover. That changes it a little bit. It's not a punt, but a turnover that changes the possession. Who knows what we would have done there? Kind of reminds me of the Huskies game stats against Rutgers.
Yeah, for those Husky fans, if you watch the game, it's one of those. If you watch both games, you'd understand what George means, which is a lot of things. Maybe a team losing the game, or a team like losing the game more than the other team winning the game. But I think the game leans a little more to the Lions winning it.
Yeah, because the Seahawks didn't have like the discipline issues and the dumb ideas and the dumb penalties and things like that, or running on the field after a blocked field goal. So I'm not going to not similar, but the stats, if you like, when they pop off the screen, they look similar.
Yeah, and with the Seahawks game, once again, I'm admitting it's an excuse. I don't want people to come out and be like, "Oh, this is like cry about it." But there were key moments of the game where calls were, and I'm not saying the refs are perfect on the other side. I'm sure we got some calls that weren't calls, but I'm just saying.
What was that cornerback's name?
Carson, not Carson.
Carlton.
Carlton,
something. He said after the game that I just saw this today that he needs to take referees out to dinner from now on because they were one-sided towards the Seahawks. So honestly,
Yeah.
after any football game, you can talk to fans of both teams, and both of them are probably going to complain about the referees. So I've never been a blame the referee guy. But I do admit there have been some missed calls. I don't know
Yeah.
if we would have won the
I
game.
mean, I started that sentence on purpose with,
Yeah, I know.
there are probably problems on both sides. I'm just talking about specifically, I don't know how the NFL misses DK Metcalf being completely in on a 2-point conversion. That's weird that they don't review that.
And that's supposed to be reviewed by a lot of people
booth.
are like, why? By the booth. That's a booth review.
And you can't challenge it. So like he was in. I mean, like everyone saw the replay. Even the announcers were like, is the booth going to look at this? He's in. And then you had certain things like the offensive PI by Tyler Lockett. Then you had certain other, whatever it is. Like there was DK Metcalf getting tackled in the end zone on could have been touchdown. So their excuses, yes, but those altered the game in some way. And
there was that. Remember that Amaron St. Brown? He scored a touchdown. The refs didn't even like blow the whistle and give him a touchdown, and he celebrated. And like a minute later, they're like, "Oh yeah, touch!" Like I don't know if they were
no one
sleeping.
called it a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't know if they were sleeping or what was going on, but it was a lot of weird plays, and it does like look for us Seahawk fans. It gets highlighted because we watch every game. But even the national, like if you go on Twitter and see what people were saying about the game in general, a lot of people had the same feeling. Like the Seahawks kind of got a little bit of the raw end of the stick.
And that's a good transition when you get to national media. A lot of the national media came out of this week saying, boy, the Seahawks lost, but they're pretty good. I remember the first thing on Tuesday morning, I was watching Colin Cowherd, as I do usually. First thing he said, I came out of that game saying, wow, the Seahawks are a lot better than I thought. Like even though they gave up 42 points and lost, they're missing half their defense, but Geno Smith looks like he might be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL this year. And that Ryan Grubb offense is insane. And so the national media is not looking at the Seahawks this week as, gave up 42 points, but you have your defense out. They know that there were some mistakes. We also went down early 14-0. The rest of the game was we won the rest of the game. If you think about it, right? We lost by 13. So we won the game outside of that first quarter, but we started off slow. The defense had some trouble with everybody out. Understandable, especially against the Lions team who has a good offense. And at the end of the day, our offense, like you said, 38 first downs, the most in history in the NFL in a loss. The offense is not the problem at all. And that's with our offensive line in the pass blocking. In the run block, they're okay. In the pass blocking, being awful. And Geno Smith still looking like a top 5-6 quarterback in the NFL. So there's a lot of good signs going our way. And you're going to lose games in football. There's 2 teams left that are 4-0.
Yeah, here's one thing I want to say. I do want to talk about Geno quite a bit because he was outstanding. But before that, I have a feeling this is not the last time we play Detroit this season. I really think we're going to win our division. And I think the Lions are going to finish in the wild card because the Vikings are just been that good. I don't know. Maybe they win their division, but I have a feeling we're going to be hosting the Lions at some point later on. Well, not this year, but in early 2025 in January.
Well, as the standings stand right now, we're the 3 seed in there. The 6 seed would be at Seattle.
There we go.
Lions at Seattle. So that's how the NFL every week does might be early, but here's the week 4 playoff picture, and it's number 3 seed Seattle against number 6 seed Detroit in the wild card round. So yeah, it is possible it lines up this way. There's also a possibility that it flips where they're the 3 seed and the Seahawks are the 6 seed if the 49ers catch up. I feel like there's a very good chance that one of us is a division winner at the 3 seed and the other one's the 6 seed in the wild card. Like either way.
Yeah. I left this game, and unless injuries, of course, happen or like disasters, but in general, both of these teams are definite playoff teams and contenders.
Yeah, they're in that. I think they're both in the section 2. Outside of like the Chiefs and Vikings right now, you have to. Like you can't. The Chiefs,
Bills,
the Vikings, Bills.
Ravens, like the Bills. Even though they're 2-2.
Bills are a great example. Like what happened to Bills this week? They played against the Ravens, a really good football team, had a little bit of a down week. I don't see anybody being like, well, the Bills are cooked, right? Like,
exactly.
Okay. Derrick Henry is like the Megatron of running backs, but even scarier, the Transformer. Like, I don't know how he still does it.
Did you see that picture or that video of DK Metcalf and Calvin Johnson dapping
Yeah,
up
he
on the sideline.
made DK look small.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, that is a massive human being.
Yeah, I thought about it and I was like, well, I think Megatron's like 6'6" and probably like a little bit like a little bit thicker, or not thicker, but like he's 6'6" and DK's 6'4". But it's
Yeah,
rare to see DK standing next to somebody, especially another wide receiver, where he looks small. It's actually funny when you see some of these players. There's like those pictures of like Bobby Wagner and DK Metcalf with who was it? It was like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and they like at his like chest, like one to flick LeBron. He's like they're like right here, and I'm like, damn, like LeBron's like a legit 6 inches taller than DK Metcalf and as
that's
big.
nuts.
Yeah. So that was actually when I saw that, I was like, what the heck? Like, gosh, people, that's why they called him Megatron. It wasn't just it wasn't just a saying because he was good. It was
Yeah,
he's huge.
they didn't call him like average Tron.
Yeah. Or
That's a
Minitron.
horrible or mini
Minitron
Tron
would have been
there.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Minitron. Like
Sorry.
Tyreek Hill would be Minitron.
Tyreek Hill is probably going to get traded. Do you think? I don't think so personally, but do you think any of these wide receivers who are on the trade market right now, do we have any interest whatsoever? I say no.
Oh,
but
Seahawks. I thought you were asking if you think they're going to get traded. No, absolutely not.
yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah. The Seahawks aren't in the business of trading for like $150 million wide receiver with the
No,
wide
we're
receiver
not.
group we already have.
Yeah, I mean our group. I think what is DK second or third in receiving yards now, going after this week.
He's somewhere right there, but he was, I
Because
think, the first Seahawk in history to have 3 straight 100-yard plus games.
Wow, even
Yeah,
more
like
than Steve Largent.
well, I think that's what it was, or maybe it was his first. I mean, like don't let me fact check that one.
Yeah, while you fact check that, I just want to kind of go through a couple things. Like if you go look at our offense in general, right? So you got DK. I know he's top 5 in receiving yards in the NFL. You got Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's 6 in receptions in the NFL.
In
You got
Jigba, not in
Jigba.
Jigba.
You know me and my pronunciations. You got Kenneth Walker. The third is what 2 touchdowns behind the leader for most rushing touchdowns.
I think
He's only
one.
played 2 games. There's 1 or 2 touchdowns behind. I'm not sure, but he's like right there in the rushing leaders in the NFL in touchdowns, and he's only played 2 games. And then you got Geno Smith, who leads the league in passing yards and second in completion percentage. Like our offensive players are just balling out right now.
Yeah, I have 2 things to say. One, Kenneth Walker is second in touchdowns with 4. The next closest 5. He's missed 2 games. And Zach Charbonnet, who played in his replacement, has 3 touchdowns. Our starting running backs have 7 touchdowns, while the lead leaguers, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, and Kieran Williams at 5. But I'm guessing if Walker played, you maybe have 2 of those 3 Zach Charbonnet touchdowns. He'd probably have 7 touchdowns right now, or 6 touchdowns. And then on top of that, DK Metcalf. I did want to talk about him when you talked about Megatron. He is the first Seahawk in Seattle Seahawks history to have 3 straight 100+ receiving yard games, which is pretty crazy to think. Considering we've had Steve Largent, Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett's, all these guys that have Golden Tate, Super Bowl teams. DK Metcalf he's 3rd in receiving yards. He's 3 straight 100+ yard games. I feel like he still has that he doesn't have the attitude problem this year, but he still has that slight fumbling problem. We saw it again this week, but he's genuinely developing into one of those top 4, 5, 6, 7 receivers.
I totally agree. Yeah,
he's what we expected to finally happen.
Right. There's a list, right? Like Nico Collins, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and then you could say DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I mean, he's 3rd in yards. I mean, I'm just looking at maybe you put Jamar Chase over him.
Maybe I'm a Jamar Chase, but top 5. I would put him top 5.
I mean, he has more receiving yards than Justin Jefferson, Chris Godwin, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marvin Harrison, George Pickens, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Smith. We're talking about more than Debo, more than Mike Evans, more than Tyreek Hill. We're talking about it's Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors, and DK Metcalf, and Juwan Jenkins and Justin Jefferson. He's really up there, especially, averaging pretty big, big catches. He's 3rd, I think, in yards per game also, which makes sense because we're 4 games in. He's 3rd in the league, but he's been killing it. And I also love that he's at 136 yards after catch. So almost 200 of his, almost third of his yards are after catch too. Like he's one
Yeah,
of those guys.
which is weird though if you think about it, because a lot of them, like let's say the one against New England, like yeah, there were so many after the catch, but there's no one in front of him either. I mean, he is physical, but that's a little bit of a misleading stat for DK this year. It's not a misleading
Okay.
stat of DK, but in general.
Okay, for DK this year it is, but in general, like another guy, Tyreek Hill has 123. When you look at that, like Tyreek Hill has 217 yards,
Yeah,
and 123 of them are after catch. It shows that DK is not just the receiver that's deep ball, big catch, what you would expect. He has ridiculous breakaway speed to get like
absolutely.
Tyreek Hill is not getting yards after catch from like truck sticking a guy. He's getting it because somehow defenders are
Can't
just
keep up.
lost, and DK does that. And he's like a Tyreek Hill of a giant human. Like like it's weird. It's like the Derrick Henry method that doesn't make sense. Derrick Henry now has 3 runs of 90 plus yards in his career. It's like the second most ever, and he's
Yeah, and you look
like
at that
the
guy, you're like, there's
largest
no
back
way.
ever. Yeah, he might be the most physical large back I've ever seen in my life. And before we get to the rest of the podcast, I want to talk about our sponsor, George, our sponsor that allows us to come to you guys more often. So you got to support us. It's Rebet. Make sure you use the Rebet app and use promo code ONTAP, which is legal in Washington State. And yes, it is like a real sports book. You can bet spreads, player props, and all that good stuff.
It's amazing, actually. It's the way they have it set up is you can use real money in sports bet using this thing, your telephone
In
in
Washington
Washington
State.
State.
Yeah. Mind
No,
blowing.
really, you can actually do it. If you don't believe us, download the app and use promo code ONTAP.
Use promo code ONTAP or the link in our description. I'll also pin it in the comments. If you want to just download the Rebet app, you'll get to a part where it has your name and your information. You can type in the referral code ONTAP. Minimum deposit of $10 and up to $100, they'll match that deposit. So if you put 10, they'll give you a $10 free bet. If you put 100, they'll give you a $100 free bet. And you'll be supporting the boys here on the show. So show us some love. Download the Rebet app and use promo code ONTAP. And let's get back to the show.
Yeah,
so DK kind of has that. And that's what's crazy about DK. And, I think, to speak of the receiving core, I feel like it causes some disappointment from guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba and Tyler Lockett, where you don't see their numbers pop off that much. But I think people need to give that a little bit of a break because I think we legitimately have a number one receiver. I think before we didn't. And I think when we drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba, our theory, like as a team, was probably maybe, we're a spread it around team. We don't have a pure number one. We don't have a Justin Jefferson, right? But DK is kind of becoming that number one receiver where the 2 and 3 are just not going to have as crazy of numbers. And that's where he's become.
But still, and Jigba's what, 6 in receptions in the NFL. Like, honestly, like, and he's had a couple bad games. It's not like he's been on fire the whole entire season. To be 6 in receptions, he's like solid.
In 16th, or no, sorry, 24th. He's top 25 in yards. Still pretty good.
Yeah, still pretty good. That's what I mean. He's a legit number 2.
Yeah, very. And Tyler Lockett, no matter what we think of him or his age, or he's maybe taking a step back, I mean, Tyler Lockett still has 18 catches for 200 yards this year. Like,
great.
He's, I know it's 4 games, but if you're getting 5 catches for 50 yards a game from Tyler Lockett on top of Jackson Smith and Jigba, on top of DK Metcalf, that's a pretty good problem to have. Like, oh, Tyler Lockett's stats aren't popping off. I don't care. That's great to have if your number 3 receiver is Tyler Lockett.
It's amazing.
Yeah, this offense is unbelievable. And now it's time for the defense, George, to get healthy and step up, because I think if we fix those tiny problems of health and just the other tiny problems we have, which is we're pretty low, like in PFF grading and tackling. You saw that David Montgomery run, which helped Detroit, break away a little bit. It was 5 missed tackles. And then the offensive line and pass protection. Those 2 things get a little bit better. Like, we're going from a top 17.
It's so hard with all the injuries to get so much better in those things, but hopefully we can figure out a way.
Especially the offensive line, because it just seems like a cursed position since our Super Bowl years. Like,
I know.
No matter what they do, they know Abraham Lucas is going to be hurt. They bring in George Fant. George Fant gets hurt, and then it's like Anthony Bradford has on and off games, and Stone Forsythe has on and off games, and you're just like, when is it going to get fixed?
I feel like the NFL in general has offensive line problems. So it's not just us, but the NFL blocking has been atrocious. And I think that's a lack of preseason, a lot of being able to hit in training camp like you used to. Offensive line play tends to get a little bit better as the season progresses, but
that's
ours is
maybe
just
that's maybe like an easier solution for like the San Francisco 49ers or like the Detroit
yes.
Lions, because they have the extreme talent. We have one side that's, been fine. Like, I mean, you
I
look at
know.
and you have Charles Cross and you have Connor Williams. It's just those gap spots that are hurt or really hard to figure out. And that's why they brought in 42-year-old Jason Peters, and they might expect him to be an impact for us this year like he was last year. Played 8 games. That's not good. That's not a good thing, but he did.
But
And
you have to get someone to play the position.
and if it's doing better than the other guys, then it's doing better than the other guys.
Exactly.
That's
He's more talented.
yeah,
He
like,
might
I
just be
mean,
old.
yeah, he's old, but he has the technique and talent. And sometimes bringing in a vet somewhere does something. I mean, in every sport, there's
Right.
bench guys in the NBA that are just there to help people. There's baseball players like Justin Turner on the Mariners or the Carlos Santana of the world that are 40 years old, but like they come in, they help people with technique. They get they play a little bit and get people kind of get their vibes
help
going.
people, and they help people. They help them tell them what to do. Like really,
Yeah.
like he might be able to provide some great like you said, technique at practice.
Yeah, and that's probably what we need because the offensive line
Exactly.
is not very good. We'll do a podcast Friday probably about the Giants game, but just briefly before we do our full preview, I think it's a good spot to have the Giants after a tough game against the Lions, kind of fix some things up. I'm not saying, it's a guaranteed win or anything, but it's definitely an easier game on the schedule compared to the rest of the schedule that's coming up.
Absolutely.
So we kind of need this type of game.
It's a good medicine to have is the Daniel Jones led New York Giants coming into town.
Yeah. And if you are as legit as you looked for 3 or 4 weeks, you should, come into that game, fix up the little issues you had and go win that game. I don't care if like we said, weeks 1 through 3, I don't care if it's by 3 points or 20 points, but just look good. And we talked about that before this Detroit game. Even if we lose, can we come out with some positives? And we did. And I'm just hoping the same thing with the Giants game. I don't care how much we win by, but I want to win and come out with positives that, hey, we're getting healthier. The offense is still just as good as we thought. And the defense is growing. And let's see if we can get these.
That's exactly what I want
wins.
to.
Yeah.
Exactly what I want.
Get healthy, please.
Yeah. I won't be so optimistic if we come out of the Giants game with a loss.
Yeah. I'll definitely be a little disappointed.
Exactly.
I don't want to lose to Daniel Jones. Let's put it that way. Just like when we used to lose to Colt McCoy. Not interested in that.
Thank God they don't have Colt McCoy coming out.
It would have been rough. I was worried maybe Skylar Thompson was going to be that guy, that Colt McCoy, but he wasn't.
That's what I was worried about too. Hopefully Drew Lock doesn't. Is he still on the roster?
Yeah, I think he's the backup.
Is he backup or third string? Because they got what's his name? Tommy DeVito.
I don't think he's on the team anymore.
Is he not?
Oh, he's third string. He is.
So yeah, Drew Lock's third. Yeah.
No. Tommy DeVito. Yeah.
Come on, name like Tommy DeVito. You got to be at least second string.
I think Drew Lock's better than Tommy DeVito.
I think so too.
Pretty certain, but to each his own. Drew Lock had a nice game last year, so
he had his moment for us.
Yeah, he did. Well, we'll be back on Friday. Also on this channel, you'll see a Mariners podcast on Thursday. Kind of just talking about the season, what's next, how disappointing it is. Maybe a little bit for me of how happy I am the Astros lost, and all those good stuff. So tune in, like and subscribe. We'll be coming to you guys more often, and we appreciate the love and support. And got anything else?
That's it, guys. I mean, you know what? Will we have a betting preview up for the Seahawks later this week?
I have no idea.
We'll discuss that. Maybe we'll have a betting we'll let you guys know on Friday if we have a betting preview up on our other channel for the Seahawks Giants game.
Sounds great. We'll be back. And George, you know what we like to say.
Thanks for stopping by.